Monica, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Really glad to be here.
So you have an exciting new initiative called How She Works. Talk to me how that got started and what's going on.
Absolutely. So I've been in technology and innovation for about 3 years now across a few different sectors. And what I've found is that the women in all of these different sectors aren't necessarily communicating with each other. So as a member of the women in technology community, I go to a lot of events, and I find that they aren't really amplifying the voices of the women in the community. So that's really the mission of How She Works. The idea is to highlight amazing people in the space and really build a community around allyship as well, which is why our model is that we're bringing men and women together to talk about moving the needle. So very similar to this keynote that we just had at Money 2020, speaking about how we can all work together to change the face of technology and include different perspectives.
Because it seems like things are very siloed when it comes to women's initiatives. Mm-hmm. You know, it's women in fintech, women in martech, you know, as you mentioned, but things are still kind of separated. So how are you hoping to bring them all together with this initiative?
Absolutely. So at the heart of it, How She Works is really grassroots, right? We have volunteers in all of our different cities. We're just about to launch New York in a week that actually help us figure out what content would be most helpful for them. So we're starting with a VC panel in New York. It's going to have people who are investing across different sectors. So everything from health tech to ed tech to med tech, and all of the techs. And just getting a better sense of the wider technology landscape, because I think there's so much that we can do cross-sectorally, and I really want to create an environment where people can use these networks to actually build deal flow, make meaningful connections, whether it's for mentorship or getting advice on transitioning your career through to actually building deals at your current company.
So what advice do you have for folks kind of in the middle? You see a lot of these programs and it's for maybe women that are just out of college or just starting out in their careers, and then on the other end of it you have women who are already established, maybe they're already CEOs or sitting on boards, but for the rest of us kind of in the middle, where do we start?
Well, I think that's the entire reason we founded How She Works. And the idea is, start small. I think a lot of times there are a lot of resources out there for paid groups and development programs, and those are great, but if you're self-funding or you're still trying to figure out what direction you want to go with your career, I started by just asking a few friends in the industry. I said, hey, I really admire you, I'd love to get coffee. You are about one step above where I am in my career right now. And that really provides that perspective. I think it's important to have mentors across every stage, and having someone who's just a little bit ahead of you, that's really helpful because they can retrace their steps and explain to you what they've done to get where they are. And you can work incrementally like that. So I think it's finding small groups for yourself within wider affinity networks.
And what have you found makes for a great mentor?
To start, I actually think you can't have just one. I think that is the most important part.
I think that's a common misconception is folks
Absolutely.
think, okay, so I have this lifelong mentor, but not always the case.
And they always look at their mentor and they say, I want to be that person.
Right.
When really you can never be that person, you have to be your own person. So I think having a variety and having people who speak to different parts of your life is actually really important. So I've got a mentor who kind of coaches me through my personal happiness and the hobbies in my life, pushes me to try a lot of new things and travel. He's a big nature enthusiast.
I'd get
so
along
I recently got into hiking. But at the same time, I've actually got a mentor who is in a totally different vertical. She works in the creative industry at an ad agency, but she's thinking about how to bring innovation to that industry. And so the way that she thinks about stuff is actually what I'm learning about. I think there's this misconception that a mentor will tell you, take this job, say these words, when really it's about a mindset and a way of thinking about your career. And I've always found that having 4 or 5 people to bounce ideas off of helps you figure out, with all that advice, how do you personalize it and make it your own way forward?
And I think people are so focused on making sure that their mentor or advice comes from the industry that they're in, but you made a good point by saying you have mentors that kind of reach all different facets of your life to, it creates a more holistic approach to your career and just, life habits in general. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, and I think it promotes kind of an intellectual curiosity as well, that I find that all of the best people possess. When you're excited and enthusiastic about something, completely out of your realm of work, it will actually find ways into your day-to-day life. So I actually got a really good idea for my current role, thinking about how a friend of mine has been, invested in the health tech industry. So she works at Flatiron Health, and she's just kind of re-envisioning the consumer experience in the health industry. And I brought that kind of hospitality mindedness to a project I worked on for a financial institution.
Wow, there you go, perfectly
Cross-sector.
Cross-sector, perfectly applicable. That's great. So to wrap it up, what change are you hoping to affect, I should say, with this new initiative of How She Works?
So I'm hoping to kind of democratize information, actually. So for our first event, I talked about how we're doing VC. Anytime you speak to any venture capitalist and you ask them, how did you get this job? The answer is, I knew a guy.
Yes, it's all about who you know these days, right?
Exactly, which is great, but so many people out there have potential and might not have access to those networks or that kind of information, or the privilege of having attended certain institutions. So the idea is really to democratize information. So for that first event, we'll be kind of peering into the minds of how people make investment decisions, how you get into that field in the first place. But then as we go on and look at other tech sectors, or even just kind of different functional roles within startups and within entrepreneurship, it's kind of demystifying what that really means.
Absolutely. Well, tell folks where they can find out more information, Monica. It's been a pleasure, and congratulations on your new initiative.
Thank you. Absolutely. We'd love to connect with anybody at our events. We're in New York and San Francisco, and you can find more information about us at howshe.works.
Fantastic, Monica. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
From Medici Studio, I'm Shannon Rossick.